What if the moon was made of cheese? Let's imagine one night you look up at the sky, and instead of that cold gray rock orbiting Earth, you see a giant ball of cheddar glowing in the darkness. Not only does it look delicious, but suddenly every mouse on Earth is probably rethinking its life goals. But let's take this seriously. Could the moon really be made of cheese, and what would that mean for us? First of all, the moon has a mass of about 7.35 times 10 to the 22nd kilograms. If we replace all that rock with cheese, we have to decide which kind of cheese we're talking about. A dense hard cheese like Parmesan, a hole-filled Swiss, or a creamy brie. Let's split the difference and imagine it's cheddar, which has an average density of about 1,100 kilograms per cubic meter. That's less than rock, which is closer to 3,300. This means our cheesy moon would be only about 1/3 the mass of the real one. Immediately, that's a problem. The moon's gravitational pull is what creates tides on Earth. With less mass, the tides would shrink dramatically. Instead of dramatic rises and falls in sea level, the oceans would move only a little, maybe like tiny ripples. Surfers would complain, coastal ecosystems would collapse, and poets would have to find something else to write about instead of the mystical pull of the moon. But tides aren't the only issue. The moon also helps stabilize Earth's rotation. Without a heavy rocky moon, Earth would start wobbling like a badly balanced spinning top. Over thousands of years, that wobble could cause wild climate swings. Imagine living in a world where the Sahara becomes a rainforest for a few centuries, and then suddenly an ice sheet. That's right. Cheesy moon means chaotic weather patterns and probably fewer tourists booking vacations in predictable climates. Okay, so that's the science part. But what about the fun stuff? If the moon is cheese, could we eat it? A quick calculation, the moon's volume is about 21.9 billion cubic kilometers. Multiply that by the density of cheddar, and you get an unimaginably huge amount of cheese, something like 2.4 times 10 to the 22nd kilograms. If every single human on Earth dedicated their lives to eating moon cheese, consuming 1 kilogram per day, it would still take humanity more than 1 trillion years to finish the whole thing. In other words, no matter how much pizza you make, you're never running out of toppings. But then comes the problem of spoilage. Cheese, unlike rock, doesn't really do well in space. The surface of the moon can reach 127 degrees Celsius in the day and drop to negative 173 degrees Celsius at night. That's like putting your cheese wheel in an oven, then instantly moving it to a deep freezer over and over again. It wouldn't stay delicious for long. The surface would be a charred, frozen mess, while the inside might remain preserved. Space cheese, crispy on the outside, gooey in the middle. Astronomers would also be very confused. Our current moon reflects sunlight in a particular way, making the night sky bright. A moon made of cheese would have a different reflectivity, or albedo. It might look yellower, maybe even orange, giving Earth nights that look permanently like sunset. Romantics might love it, scientists not so much. And what about astronauts? The Apollo missions collected moon rocks to bring home. In this new reality, they would have returned with moon cheese samples. Imagine Neil Armstrong taking that first step and sinking slightly into the soft cheddar surface. That's one small step for man, one giant bite for mankind. Instead of a rock collection at NASA, we'd have a giant freezer filled with lunar cheddar wheels. Every space museum would smell like a cheese shop. But there's one more dangerous thought. What if Earth actually tried to use the cheese moon as food? Countries might launch missions to mine the moon for dairy products. Pizza companies would send rockets. Nations might fight wars over who controls the cheddar supply. Suddenly, instead of oil, humanity's great resource conflicts would be about mozzarella monopolies and brie blockades. And let's not forget the mice. If the moon really was cheese, every mouse on the planet would look up with longing. Eventually, maybe they'd evolve into a spacefaring civilization, building tiny rockets to claim their rightful dairy kingdom. Humanity might not even be the first species to colonize the cheese moon. Imagine reading in a history book. In the year 4025, the Great Mouse Empire began its conquest of the solar system. So, could the moon be made of cheese? Realistically, no. It wouldn't be massive enough to keep Earth stable, it would spoil under space conditions, and it would create more problems than it solves. But if it were, life on Earth would look very different. Maybe worse in some ways, maybe better in others. But one thing's for sure, you'd never again have to worry about running out of cheese for your sandwich,